I thought actually, contrary to what I'm sure everybody's narrative is, I thought we actually had pretty solid performance at Arkansas. Accomplished a lot of the things we wanted to see accomplished outside of getting the win. We saw Chase Brock get over the hump and hit a nice floor routine. Her vault continues to improve. We hit 24 routines, albeit we did get timid at the end and let circumstances and perceptions about what was happening kind of get to us, and we've got to be better. We got to be better than that. But overall, I thought we accomplished a lot of the things we wanted to on the road. Got a good solid road score. Kind of held serve in terms of where we are from an average perspective right now, and now we come out of the first month of the season, and we head into the mid part of the season. Obviously needing to improve in some areas, but also very proud of the fight that these kids have shown so far.
With someone like Chase, is it really just confidence more than anything that's going to build into consistency?
Well, you hope so. Chase is a really talented athlete. Confidence has been an issue for her over and over again, and just managing her stress and her and keeping her in a place where she feels successful day in and day out is a key for her to continue going. But right now she's in a really good place, and just she was pretty pleased with how she did on floor. I'm not sure the score reflected the quality of the routine that she did, but regardless, we had toyed with the idea of taking her out and putting Elena in there, which would have put Elena in the all-around, but Elena's back, we got to be careful with, and so we just felt like, Chase had made a mistake the first two meets, but they were in different places, and felt like we kind of had to pull her through that knothole a little bit and let her go through that growth experience. There's no substitute for experience, and so you have to kind of be patient from time to time, even when the results aren't exactly what you're looking for, and I think Chase is a prime example of that.
Does it feel like the girls are kind of pressing a little much when it comes to beam?
I think they did in that meet. We made some mistakes on Monday or whatever our Missouri meet was. I've lost track of. But I don't think that had anything to do with what happened in that meet. I think the environment over there got big. It was great. I mean, for Arkansas to have an environment similar to what we have over here, albeit in a smaller arena, the volume was there. You could tell the scores were getting big over there on floor. I don't think it has anything to do with the event itself as much as it does just a mindset of not being timid when things get tight. Sometimes, you guys heard me say right after Kaya went down, we went against Oklahoma, and you could tell that nobody really expected. It was like, well, they competed more free mentally because they were in sort of this underdog kind of mode, right? And then you get in a situation at Arkansas, and Arkansas is a much better team than what they were ranked by a long shot. No one should have ever been fooled by that had they been paying attention. They just had one event kind of implode on them in their first three meets, but they're a very good team. And so you get over there and you realize that we're leading pretty much throughout that meet. We held serve and leading throughout that meet, and you realize you're going to beam and it's 2/10, and they're a good floor team, and I think the experience level on the balance beam kind of showed up a little bit. I think they did get tight. Really the number 2 and 3 spots more than anything. I think Haley and Aaliyah obviously did an amazing job at the end and did their normal stuff, but you could see Alona get tight, you could see Elena get a little tight, you could see them, and the pace of the routine slowed down and they became a little more hesitant, and that's wanting to win, but not staying in a mindset of aggressive attacking your routine kind of thing. And so again, it's growth, and they've either got to grow into that, because it's not the last time. We're going to go to Auburn in 2 weeks and have an environment over there that's very similar, and we've got to be more mature from a competitive standpoint than that if we're going to be where we want to be come March and April.
Do you think there's been a little bit of maybe a paradigm shift where the team has got to come to the fact that they can't rely on Kaya now that she's out, and that's maybe where that tenseness is coming from?
Maybe, again, I go back to experience being the thing, is we have some people out there that don't have a lot of experience, and they're getting that experience. And it comes in, everybody goes through their own growth in different ways. You have freshmen that come in like Kaya did, and they take the world by storm and they do amazing things. But you also have people that have to have time to grow into those competitive roles that haven't experienced it much in their life. And everybody's different. I believe in the ability of everybody we're putting out there. As I told them a couple of weeks ago, nobody's here because they can't. We're all here because we can, but we also have to make allowances and meet them where they are, and let them go through that experience. The maturation process is different for every competitor and every person. we all go through things, whether it's in life or in sport, where we become different as we go through and gain experience in different things. And I think it's just as simple as that. I'm encouraged by the fact that we're not falling all over ourselves. You're not seeing those kinds of things happen. And there are teams around the country where those kinds of things happen. We've been pretty steady. Now we've just got to take it up a notch and get a little more dialed in on some of the execution things. We're still walking around on landings and things of that nature, particularly on beam right now.
I think that's a good segue to KJ, right?
Mm-hmm.
Her vault start value is 995.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So what did it mean for her to get that 995?
Well, she finally did the vault that she's capable of. And again, I told you guys, I don't remember which time it was we were sitting here talking. In the early going, I thought you talking about pressing. I felt like KJ was pressing a little bit because she was one of those that kind of came in last year, did 2 events, and exploded on the scene, and everybody went crazy about KJ Johnson and how awesome she is. And then you come into the sophomore year and you're trying to replicate or do more. I think she finally showed signs that she's settling back down and becoming just normal KJ, and that vault was indicative of that. It was right down the middle. If you were looking at it from the back, from the early part of the year, where she was kind of head out on the round off and getting a little bit crooked, couldn't quite dial in that landing. The last 2 weeks, we've seen her really get over the top with her round off, right down the middle, and she's starting to find that landing, getting the arms out. You'll hear the announcers talk about flare. She's not really trying to flare it, but her landing technique, when it's right, her arms get out to the side, and she gets into that landing. And it was the first time we had seen her do that in competition yet. She does it every day in here almost, but sometimes it takes time for that to translate over.
Speaking of flaring and consistency, Haley, when you see an athlete get to that level that she is on vault, and just the consistency with which she performs, like you said, in practice, and then is able to take it into a meet gym floor, what do you think as a coach? Don't mess with it?
Yeah, don't bet. For Haley, right? Practice is overrated and in some ways could be destructive. If we're not careful, she doesn't need to do a lot of numbers. She could probably take 2 weeks off in all honesty, and still be able to perform at or near the level that she is right now. It's more of a mental thing. Just to keep her in a rhythm. So she needs to do very little from a physical standpoint right now, but just stay where she needs to be mentally, so that because she's in a really good place right now. Mentally, and sometimes coaches, when you have an athlete in that position, it's like a guy throwing a no-no in a baseball game, and they come off and they sit in the dugout. You don't want to say the wrong thing. They leave them alone, and that's I think we're kind of in that situation with Haley. Just let her be. She's managing herself. She's communicating really well with us about where she is and how she's feeling. If she's tired, if she's got a little fatigue or something, she's been great about communicating that, and then we've been able to make adjustments based on her input, and that's really most important for a lot of them right now.
Is she, when Kai went down, did you have to say anything to her or want to say anything to her? Hey, you need to be more, she's gone 5 for 5 winning the all-around this year, or was it just
I think she probably was going to do that anyway. I think she's a junior now, and just like I was talking about with others, the maturation process has been, what it's been, and she might say differently, but I think my expectation, that's what I see every day. So I don't have any reason to believe she would go out there and do anything other than what she's done. She may have felt a greater sense of a little bit more weight on her shoulders. I don't know. You'd have to ask her, but I don't think so. Haley is so unique and such a really sort of lets things roll off her pretty well. She has a good mindset from an athletic perspective. If she, on the rare occasion she makes a mistake, she forgets about it pretty quickly, and that's what you want. And by the same token, she's not one that walks around patting herself on the back all the time either. She's just very methodical about the way she goes about things.
What about that when you get the gymnasts now that you taught their parents and coached them?
I mean, it's kind of neat, you know. I'm coaching my niece, and I also coached her mother. Her mother was, I think, the first recruit that I ever really went and recruited kind of on my own out of Canada. And then Elena's mother was from Oregon, but training in Arizona, and everybody from that gym and Desert Devils at that time was going to Utah or places out west, and was able to convince her to come into the SEC. So, you know, and then her mother's been best friends with my wife. It's just, there's a lot of crossover. I don't really give it a whole lot of thought. It's pretty special though when I stop and think about it, to think about coaching Elena, because I remember the day she was born. I was at the hospital, you know, and you know, same with Sierra. Sierra was born the same day as my son, and they're first cousins. And so when you stop and you think about those things, it's kind of neat, you know. You get little blessings in this career, you know, or in this chosen profession, and those are certainly a couple of them.
What about coaching as Georgia? Do you compartmentalize that?
No, yeah, I've been here. How long I got to be here before y'all stop asking me about Georgia? I mean, I this is my 11th year here. You know, it's my alma mater. It's where I went to school. You know, it's like Les Miles went to Michigan. I don't know. It's another meet at this point. You know, I don't know any of those kids over there. I know Courtney, their coach. I coached her, recruited her. I don't know the other two assistants all that well. The administration has turned over twice since I've been there. I mean, at this point, if y'all will let me, I'd like to be an LSU Tiger, you know, and not have to make that an issue every time. But anyway, it's another SEC meet. We need to win it. We need to get back in front of our home crowd and continue to grow and continue to take a step forward. I think this past meet was not a step backwards. It was kind of a half step forward. We got a lot of the things we wanted out of it, but not everything.
Do you feel them becoming becoming more comfortable on the road? It was the highest road score you put up this year. And
Yeah.
They're growing up, you said, but I mean.
I think they're becoming more comfortable again in general. And, you know, we've got a full third of our scholarship athletes are out with injury, you know, and you know, that's just a tough place to be when you're talking about 12 scholarships and 4 of them have not been able to contribute, you know, in the last several weeks. And so, so the thing I worry about is I believe, like I said, I believe in these guys as competitors. I think their heart's in the right place, their mind's in the right place. Fatigue can become an issue when you're missing that many people, and it's not so much physical, because I can control that. I can give them days off in the week, and I can control that to a point. It's the mental fatigue of competing over and over and over and over again, and where does that leave us? And so those are the things that concern me. I think I do think we're showing growth on the road. I think we're showing growth in general, and I think you're dealt a hand of cards and you make a hand out of it. You know, you're dealt cards and you make a hand out of it, and that's what we're doing. I'm confident that we'll continue to grow. You know, we've got to avoid any further setbacks if we can, but I like this group. I like what they're trying to do. I like where their head is. I like where their heart is. And sometimes we have to be patient. You know, you go through years where things don't go exactly as you drew them up. That's not uncommon around here. I can remember filling in for Dee Dee sitting in front of this set of cameras before and saying, "You guys be patient. The sky's not falling." And I can remember saying that in a year that we went on and did some great things in the postseason. I feel like this can be a year like that. You know, everything's a different pace. And I keep coming back to the fact, if you get hung up on W's and L's in this sport, you're making a mistake. And coaches make a mistake if they get hung up on that, because there's so much more that determines our outcome. The W's and L's we want to win them all, and I'll say that till I'm blue in the face. I know where I am. I know I'm at LSU. I know I'm, in the SEC. But the greater issue is, how do we progress? What's our scoring trend look like? How are we moving through the season and getting to the best place we can be for March and April? Because you can lose them all and win at the end, and nobody remembers what happened in the regular season. And that's ultimately what we're trying to be right now.
An update on Liv?
Huh?
Update on Liv?
I keep trying. It's about as clear as a glass of mud right now. I mean, I keep trying to find out when we're going to look at it again from an MRI perspective. She felt pretty good going into the meet, and then they let her be a little more weight bearing at the competition. And then Saturday, she was saying that it was bothering her. So I need more clarification on exactly what the severity is. I haven't seen an MRI. Not that it matters if I read an MRI, but I think I just need to know, if we take her off floor, can we get her back on bars sooner than later? I want a little more clarification. So we're working with the training staff to try to get some more clarity on that. But right now, I don't know. I'm told this morning it's probably at least another 2 weeks. Yeah.
Landing on bars, obviously floor, pounding.
Yeah.
The landing on bars is not that bad.
In the gym, it's not. When you get on a hard surface in competition, it's pretty significant. And I guess, from what I'm understanding, because of where the hot spot is, they're just concerned that it could, one landing could do something, much more protracted than just dealing with this right now. So, in layman's terms, that's all I can really say at this point. I'd like to have more clarity. It's a little frustrating right now, but it is what it is. Bryce is full go. She was towards the end of last week. So now we got to get her confidence going again. There was a reason she was in that beam lineup to start the season, and so hopefully we can get her back out there soon.
You think you'll have her this week?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see how practice goes. It's a little early to see, to tell. But she's very consistent on that event. I got every bit of confidence. If she's in a good place and feels good, then she'll do well. If we can.
Maybe a deal where you can get her just going at home instead of on the road.
Maybe we got to get her feet wet again. Something like that happens in your freshman year. It can rattle your cage a little bit, and so I don't want to push too. I don't want to. You got to be careful. I don't want to get greedy and put her back out there before she's ready mentally to do it. If she's ready, she'll show that, and we'll see it.
And then I've noticed that Cam Ryan's been in a boot. Anything about that?
Trying to decide what the route is on that. She's got a midfoot kind of issue going on, and that she and the docs are still consulting on what. Should they wait? Should they go in and scope it? What needs to be done? There's still a little bit of indecision on that. I don't anticipate she's still swinging bars right now without dismounting. It's hard to know what caused it, honestly, because she doesn't do floor. And that's usually where those kinds of things happen. That's kind of what's a little bit bewildering about Olivia's too, because she had been so far behind everyone else's floor schedule in terms of numbers. So these things, sometimes they happen. I told the kids, sometimes the stars just don't line up when you get a rash of injuries and you go, we sit in there and pore over everything we do from a strength conditioning standpoint, and is there anything we could be doing differently or more or less, and we don't really know. So it's indefinite. The short answer is it's indefinite right now. I don't know how long that will be. But if you'll notice, she was on the trip. Cam contributes a lot to the sort of the spirit of our team, and she's a powerful voice in the room, and a lot of the energy she provides comes from there in a similar way to Cammie Hall and some of the others.
You said 2 days off after Arkansas. Now that you're back in the gym, is there anything you do different after 2 days off, or maybe just press it?
Well, like I said last week, this will be kind of that first week where we feel like we're back in our regular cadence. So we'll come in. Today's sort of a lighter day, we'll do one of the legs. We vault today. That'll be the one event that they kind of do full go. we'll do what I call troubleshoot or knock the rust off day, after 2 days off, just kind of work on some small parts, areas where we saw mistakes, things that we need to improve on or that we've been working on in general. Tomorrow will be our one kind of heavier work day, and then Thursday we come in and do our pre-meet mock podium training where we go through as kind of one and done on everything. And that's the pattern you like to get into in between competitions if you can. It doesn't always lend itself. Like a couple weeks ago, we couldn't do that. We ended up with 2 days here, and then I ended up really with 1 day because I felt like they were emotionally banged up a little bit after Kaya went down. And so you kind of play that by ear. But as a general rule of thumb, if you can get 3 days in with one of them being light, one of them being pre-meet, and one of them being a good solid work day, that's the pattern you like to get into.
Well, one last question. You have the third best average in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
You've said before you think Florida's kind of their tough team to beat, but do you feel
Yeah.
like you're in that mix to be
Yeah,
the number
I
two
think
and
everybody in the conference is kind of on equal footing with the exception of Florida's the outlier. I mean, they're ridiculous, and the rest of us can stay close if they were to have a, something go awry. But I think the rest of us are kind of, in that same boat. Everybody in this conference is capable of winning on a given night and capable of scoring in that mid to high 197 range if they put it all together. I think the biggest difference for a lot of us and Florida is that Florida's wealth, their talent is so deep. I mean, they could literally probably run 2 different lineups out there and beat most everybody right now. They're just so deep with experienced international athletes, and so that puts a level of competition into the gym that allows them to, it creates a different level of momentum than when you're at a little bit of a deficit because of injury or whatever the case may be. You have to get more creative with that. And so I think Florida is far and away the team to beat in the conference right now. But can we get in there and mix it up? Absolutely. And we want to stay. You mentioned that we're third in the conference right now. You want to be in that top 4 so you can get into that evening session at SECs. And so as the season goes by and as we switch over to NQS, that'll become more of a focal point.